Let's get started with the presentation. So today's session is on strategic institutional engagement for lasting impact. And first of all, like why we are having the session, and I want to explain why I am taking the session, like what experience do I have to present about institutional engagement. So as Jagrati mentioned, like I'm Sowndarya Ganesan. I've been working with Green Tuesday Initiative, which is a meat reduction campaign, institutional meat reduction campaign for the past 5 years. So Green Tuesday Initiative was started in the year 2018. And like Vegan Outreach India, Vegan Outreach, many of you might know, it's a international non-profit. We have a presence in more than like 20 plus countries, etc. We have multiple other programs running under Vegan Outreach. So the reason why we started Green Tuesday Initiative, or to say the reason why we started institutional engagement, is we saw the need around the period, because it was when animal rights campaign was actually picking up its pace in India, 2018, I would say. But we saw all the campaigns that is like in work, or like either they were at a grassroots level, or they were not able to match up to the speed which at which the change needs to happen. So that is why we thought all the actions, all the changes and impact that needs to be created has to be at a large mass level. So that is where we thought, like, okay, there is some need for institutional work, or a campaign that works for large group of people, large number of people. So that is how Green Tuesday Initiative came into existence. And to just add, now that we are very well established in India, we have like registered ourselves as a separate entity called Redefining Ahimsa Foundation. So just this year in February, we have registered ourselves, and all the programs that worked under Vegan Outreach India still working. So you might be able to like check out our programs later when you get time. So I'll get started with the presentation. So with a question for all of you. So I want this presentation to be interactive. So it makes more sense like that. I want to know about what you have been doing on ground. And I have few questions like throughout the presentation, which I need people to answer. So how many individuals, how many people have you helped become vegan or plant-based? This question is for all of you. This says like
Around 30
number
to
of
40,
individuals,
30 to 40, maybe.
30 to 40. Any more numbers we got?
Six in my friends and family. I don't know how many in street outreach.
That's great. 6 in your friends and family. And of course, like through your street outreach, public outreach, you must have reached out to a lot of people. Yes, but are you sure all those people have become vegan or plant-based? Yes, that is
Yeah.
the question for thought. Yes, Anoki has said, in all honesty, around 4. Yes, yes, but that's a huge number. Having 4 individuals completely change their lifestyle and food pattern, and lifestyle choices is a huge thing. Indranil cannot quantify. True, very true. This is very hard to track and monitor in a long term. Varun says to family members, of course, it's easier to convince a third person when compared to a family member. I would take it as a huge win. But yes, yes, not to keep on guessing, not to lengthen the process, I'm just going to skip on, like, or move to the next slide. So I want all of you who have come up with a number to let this number sink in, which is 34 lakh 82,773. So think about this number, what it could mean, or what it could quantify. And moving on to the next slide. So this is an answer to all of you. You said like I had 4 people, I have 5 people, help 5 people, 30, 20, etc. Right? So every people that you helped turn plant-based or vegan will be saving about like 105 animal lives every year. So this is a number, this is a calculation which is arrived by data from animal charity evaluators. So this is for every person that you have helped turned vegan or plant-based, considering that that this person the transformation like sustains for a longer period, and the person continues to be plant-based or vegan throughout the next like other rest of their life. We would say a person with an averagely 25 years of life who's completely vegan will be saving about 2,625 animal lives. So this is how many animal lives a person can save in their throughout their life if they become vegan around the year of like 20 to 30 after awareness and everything. So now I want you all to get back to the number 34 lakh 82,773. So can you guess what this number could be? Could denote? Any wild guesses? Like it doesn't have to be right. Any wild guesses will do.
Number of animal lives saved because of Green Tuesday.
Exactly. This is the number of animal lives saved uh, by through Green Tuesday initiative in the past 8 years. So that is something I want everyone to think about at this moment, because this hugely shows what is the difference between street outreach or public outreach and institutional outreach. Can the impact that public outreach and institutional outreach can create the difference? So yes, here's a small with institutional outreach, Green Tuesday initiative was able to like reach out to about 85 institutional partners in the past 8 years and arrive about and save an animal life of about 34 lakh 82,000 and 773 animal lives. So let's consider with without institutional outreach or with public outreach and street outreach, if we want to achieve the same impact, it would take like 1,327 people to become vegan and sustain their transformation throughout their life, which cannot be like with all the difficulties that comes with, it's difficult to track or monitor if one person like who have transformed to a vegan diet sustains the same way. And yes, it means like each year 165 people should become vegan, the same numbers. So that is why I would say institutional outreach, or why it is important. So yes, let's take a closer look at institutional outreach. So what are the benefits that comes with institutional outreach? Simply put, institutional outreach saves a lot of time, because let's say if I'm able to convince one person who's a decision maker of an institution, who can be like an institution carrying a minimum of 500 to 1,000 or etc. Even higher numbers we can take. So if I'm able to convince one person, if I put my time and effort into the process, so the amount of impact that one conversation or the one pitch meeting carries will actually be much higher than the all the impact or all the public outreach that I could do in a year or so. So that is how I view it institutional outreach movement and how it is important in the farm animal advocacy movement. So we have higher impact, like the leverage is always higher, lesser amount of time invested, lesser amount of effort put in a certain process, and we might not need as much material resources which we need for human resource wise I'm saying, and also all the promotional materials that is needed. So we might not need as much materials as we need for public outreach. With lesser amount of all these resources, we'll be able to reach higher impact, and which is also at the same time easier to track, monitor, and sustain for a longer period of time if we did right amount of communication, if we did have like right amount of engagement in hand. So it always have a higher leverage. It is cost effective since it involves all less resources. It is highly scalable. So let's say as it is simple, if you are able to convince one institution, one institution with 500 capacity in one city, you can actually apply the same logic, same conversation and same pitch points to the institutions which are based in the same city or who have similar mindsets, right? So it's highly scalable, easier to replicate multiple times, and it's easier to monitor and measure, as I said. For example, we do not have to engage with them, like we do not have to have a longer term plan if we want to have shorter impacts. Let's say when I'm reaching out to an institution, the first thing that we have in mind is, okay, we have to convince them, we have to get them to implement a program. So then you'll have a plan around, like a short term plan which will work for 1 year to 3 years. So once you have them in your pipeline, or once you have them as your partner, then you can think about long term engagement, how to sustain the same momentum, and how to improve your impact or increase your impact. So yes, and moving on to the next slide, before I say institutional engage, before I go on to talk about challenges and opportunities, I would love to say that there is one thing about institutional outreach, because it is easier to we said it is easier to quantify, it is easier to track and measure, but it also starts with a small actions. For example, Green Tuesday initiative. So we do not have to say that, like, okay, your institution have to go completely plant based or completely vegan, your entire food system have to change. It always starts with any small actions that institutions can take. In our case, it is going plant based for 1 day in a week. That's what Green Tuesday asks for institutions. I think someone's, yeah. So going plant-based once in a week is what our ask is. Similarly, it can depend upon one institution, differ from one institution to other. If an institution do not serve a certain kind of food, we can customize the proposal according to them. We can have what works for the institution better. Let's say if you are like working with any institution who is like from a region like Kolkata or Kerala, which is heavily like non-vegetarian based or animal based, which is heavy on the animal based food product. So we can customize the program according to them. The ask can be customized according to their need, and also the same ask cannot be applied for institutions who are based in Gujarat or Rajasthan, because these states are the institutions from these states are not they are heavily like veg oriented, veg friendly institutions. Most of them all already have a veg friendly policy inside their campus. So the proposal that we want to place to the institution will differ based upon what kind of institutions that you approach, and of course what who are the decision makers and who are the responsible stakeholders that you are connecting with. Yes, moving on to the next slide. So these are some of the common challenges that we have faced while working with institutions in the past 5-6 years. So organizational culture and practices. So each institution, as I mentioned, each institution and each decision maker have a different point of view. So at an institutional's point of view, they do not want to be interfering with the individual food preferences or food choices. So if I'm a managing director or a CEO of a company, I would not want to dictate, or I would not want to like decide what my employees should eat. I can suggest, I can make recommendations, I can give the opportunity, or like I can provide the opportunity for them to choose, but the ultimate decision should come from my employees. So this is the mindset of top decision makers. It applies to educational institutions as well. To some level, companies and educational institutions decide the menu of the institution, but at the end it will always fall on the end users. So you must have seen, like if you have done institutional outreach yourselves, you must have seen that, or in your college days you must have seen there is a student committee which sits along with mess committee. They decide the menu, or the menus run by the student committee before it is implemented. So similar things happen. So institutions, if you are doing institutional outreach, yes, you will be contacting with a decision maker, but that decision maker might not have enough power to change the entire food system. So yes, and fear of employee or student resistance, exactly. So what if they always have this, okay, what if the communication does not work? What if students say it is, why should I listen to? Because let's say some of the decision makers that you're speaking to, they are align with your ideologies, they align with your point of view or the message that you want to communicate. But we cannot make sure at that moment that everyone in your institution will know what you're talking about or want to support the cause that you're working for. So until you do enough kind of like engagement and awareness at end level, there will be still some kind of fear of resistance among these stakeholders. And yes, menu planning challenges. So this challenge already exists inside the system. You must have seen every institution have their own F&B committee, and that F&B committee will be bursting like their head to decide what to serve, what kind of food needs to serve. So it is already existing crisis. So when you're going to propose to any institution saying that we want to make changes to your food menu, so the first thing that comes to their mind is, no, this is something some extra work that is being added to my already existing pile of works. So menu planning challenges will always be something that the end user, like the person on the other end, will not be ready for or will not be ready to listen to. So institution will struggle with, even if they are agreeing to take up plant-based food like once in a week or whatever you propose, they will still need help from you to navigate like vendors who will provide certain resources, like certain ingredients. If you are proposing something with like mock meats and etc., they'll still need help to help finding your vendors, and still need help in communicating to their team members that whether this food is healthy or not, because there is always this conversation of not having enough protein, vegetarian food not having enough protein. So these kind of things will keep coming up. So menu planning challenges is one of the huge things that will actually keep your make your implementation process lengthening, and also there are more chances people will actually drop off after agreeing to or committing to implement something. And higher perceived costs. So this challenge always comes with any program, not only institutional outreach but also public outreach. Also, first thing people ask is vegan food. Sorry, vegan food is costly. It is not available in all locations. So you guys already know the answer. And yes, so seeing all these challenges, we have always managed or made sure that we stick with three motivations that will help the institutions to remember why we are implementing this process. Of course, it's not just these points. There could be etc., like XYZ etc., that can help institutions decide why they want to implement this program. But it's always good to know what your institution needs or looks forward to. For example, the 3 points that is mentioned here is environmental responsibility, health and wellness, and planetary health. So for educational institutions, they might be more into student health and wellness, because they want to ensure it is essential for any educational institutions providing uh, uh, food menus to their students. It needs to be healthy and it needs to meet certain standards. So they have certain goals to meet there. So for education institutions, health and wellness can be a higher point of interest when compared to companies. But if we look at companies nowadays, companies also want to have a productive and a healthy lifestyle for their employees. So that it might also be like a plus point for companies. So always understand what the end user or the person you're speaking with is interested in. So depending on it, I think the motivation should keep changing or evolving, I would say. So yes, but one thing that we want to ensure is like institutional outreach. It is not something that we want to change dietary patterns or eating patterns, because many people confuse it with the idea of upgrading your menu, or upgrading just simply introducing plant-based menu, because that is not the case. If you look at Indian food system or any corporate food system in India, so 80-85% of their existing dishes on the menu will already be plant-based. vegetarian, So only 15% of the food that is on the menu will be non-vegetarian or animal-based food. So if you are promoting plant-based food, then that is a different campaign. But if you are aiming for a like farm animal advocacy, or to reduce animal suffering, or to work on a meat reduction campaign, then your aim should not be adding more plant-based. So it should be about like how can we reduce the already existing level of consumption. So bringing down like to any extent, to any percent, Yes. So to build an institutional campaign, what would we need? So simple 4 steps, like understand the problem statement that you need to work on. So right now, as I understand, like most of the people who are working or who are in this meeting are interested in farm animal advocacy. And if you are like interested in other programs, like, uh, uh, plant-based foods, like adding more plant-based choices to the program, that is fine, but it applies to these 4 points will apply to all kind of institutional campaigns. Understand your problem statement that you want to work on, and uh, decide on like who are you addressing to. For example, if you are working on adding more plant-based food, you still have a lot of people that you can connect with. Companies and educational institutions are not only your only end uh, end consumer, or your end user. So you still can look at many, like if you guys will know, there is one person who's based in Tamil Nadu. His name is Vijay Sweets. He's also owner of Vijay Sweets. His name is Arvind. So he organizes vegan weddings. He doesn't organize vegan wedding. He caters to like provide vegan food services for weddings if someone reaches out to him. So similarly, there is a huge lot of audience profile that you can consider for if adding plant-based food is your um, if adding plant-based food, or like that is your goal. And at institutional level, for example, a program like Green Tuesday initiative, most of our target audiences are a group of people, minimum starting from 200 to any number of setups that have cafeteria arrangement, and will have a routine food serving practices. So usually educational institutions, companies, or like conferences, any set of like the work process, like a routine work process, will apply to all the programs. Yes. So define your short-term and long-term goals. So what do you want to achieve with your campaign? So short-term means it is like 1 to 3 years. Once you have started your campaign, first 1 to 3 years, what you want to achieve. And long-term, what is the impact that you want to achieve? Identify your target audiences. Create a list of companies, or like list of your target audiences that you want to work with, and also identify who should be the right person you want to reach out to. So if you are building a program that is like that is for students, then I think like student groups like eco clubs, sustainability clubs that is existing inside a campus will be your target audience. Or if you want to make changes, like if you want to build an institutional campaign from top to bottom level, I think then the decision makers, like director of students welfare, or even like principal, dean, registrar, so they should be your target audience. Develop a clear, compelling, and actionable message. So that should have one key message. Do not make it more complicating. As we already seen, like we should appeal to all these target audiences with their motivation and not what we want to achieve through the program. So keep it as simple as possible for them to understand. Keep one simple message. If it's going to be a one liner, that is much more preferable. What Only include message that people are actually able to relate to. That is also helps. And yes, so effective strategies that have worked for us in the past. So always tailor your messages according to a specific audience. So this applies to both differing from institutions, and if educational institutions and companies should have different messages, and if I'm reaching to different designation of people, that should also make sense, like, what I'm talking about. If I'm talking to someone from an admin team in any company, so the message that I will send to them will have a different CTA, call to action. Or if I'm talking to someone from a CEO level, so that will have a different CTA. Even if I'm talking to these persons are from same company. So focus on what interests your audience. So if you are like talking to, for example, I have said health concerns should be your like messaging, or the base of your messaging for student welfare units. If I'm talking to someone from Dean Students Welfare for any institution, so they are more concerned about like how to improve students welfare. So health concerns can be one of the messages. Clear and positive messaging, as I said. So always stick with one liners, or always make communicate your ask in one line and very clear messaging, so that it is easier for them to understand and they do not have to consult you back about like what does this mean. So if let's say I'm going to any company or any educational institution, and I want to say that I want to improve animal lives, so that I want to improve animal lives, or to I want to save more animal lives. So can I introduce my institutional engagement program at your college or company? So if I tell like that, so more people cannot make the interconnection between animal lives and the food that is served on campus. So make it as simple as possible. In our case, Green Tuesday Initiative usually says, making small changes in the food that you serve. We want to make small changes in the food that you serve. That is it. So make it clear, positive. Yes, positive. Do not stick or use negative language, or use negative wordings that can actually result in some backfiring, or people might lose interest if we talk more about what are the negative impacts that comes with certain processes. So instead of going to any institution and saying, so if you serve more animal based food, these are the more animal lives will be lost. And instead of saying that, we could stick to the positive end of it. So if we serve less animal life, sorry, if we serve less animal based food, it reduces the amount of animal based food products and increase the number of like amount of plant based food items in our menu. So these are the positive things that we'll achieve, X, Y, Z, etc. like that. So start with always small changes. Do not try to make any, always be gradual. Do not try to overwhelm people with big changes or big operational changes that will actually disrupt their existing system. Try to go with the existing flow. Or you can start with anything, one simple things. Some similar to like what we say in Green Tuesday Initiative, asking them to cut down meat once a week, something like that. So something which is easy to implement, and at the same time, it happens like once a week is something like a frequency that people do not forget. Let's say if I'm doing like do it for 1 month, I think people are like 1 month ke liye people will talk and people will complain and people will remember. But after 1 month, people like will forget. And if I'm going to that institution and saying let's do that again in the next year, I don't think they would be interested, because the impact was not long lasting or engaging enough for them to act upon. Yes, and use personalized terminologies. Use a language that reflects well or resonates with your audience. For example, we always have like use these words interchangeably, like vegan, plant-based, cruelty-free, meat-free, animal friendly, or veg-friendly. So all these terminologies are there. Pick up the terminologies that are more suitable to the messaging and the audience at the audience level. So data-driven impact reports. Always have a fact sheet ready, that I would say. Instead of like impact reports, if you are someone who's starting a campaign, like at this like starting a new campaign, starting something new, so the first thing that you should have after doing all the groundworks is having a fact sheet ready. So for example, I would say the fact that I mentioned that if a person turns vegan or plant based, so in a year they'll be able to save 105 lives. So this is a fact that comes from a reliable source. Similarly, you need to have a fact sheet which will include all the positive things that we can achieve by making like let's say if your program for Green Tuesday initiative, it is about like meat reduction, right? So our fact sheet will have facts that are relevant to plant-based food and by reducing meat consumption, what are the positive changes that people can achieve. So always have a like measurable outcome. So this will be help people to relate to what impact they can create directly, how it can directly impact their lives rather than interconnected communication or terminologies. Work on the proper channel. As I mentioned, if top-down approach is what you prefer, I think for them, all the communication needs to be formal. So if I'm reaching out to a principal from any institution, so he would want me to write a formal letter from in my letterhead and go through the right channels to reach out to him. And then like of course principal is not the only decision maker. He will take me to like register a VC or whoever is like and then he will take me to the implementation points like coming down. Then there'll be chief warden or the FNB team, hostel mess team and all. So these will be the implementation partners. So there is always a proper channel how you need to work. This depends upon who you're reaching out first. Let's say if in the past we have worked like that. So there is one university where we did a bottom to top approach. So there was a student committee like eco club already existing inside the campus. So we approached them. So these student committee members were also like some of the people were vegan. So we approached them and proposed that okay, let's introduce this program and you need to spearhead the program. So this will add value to your profile as well. So this is we reached out to them, and then what happened was like students took all the initiatives and they reached out to the right person. So always think about like which could be a proper channel or the better channel to fasten your process. So that is very important. And always work on success stories, testimonials. So let's say this is your first campaign and this is your first success. Treat it as important. Like if you need to post it on all social media platforms that you have, give them enough visibility so that other institutions who are seeing it will also be inspired to take such actions. And when you have these materials, social media posts, blogs, and press releases. These are you can reach out to local medias, and ask them to post it on there. Like it can be digital, it can be print media, and put the story in their platforms. So this will actually inspire a lot of people who may not be directly related to you. And having these success stories and testimonials in your proposal will add huge value to your pitches, etc. And yes, so implementation is a completely different chapter when different chapter when it comes to sustaining, because I can any one of us can actually meet with a person, inspire them, motivate them to take a certain action, and they will give commitment. But commitment always does not mean sustaining movement or like the impact is created or guarantee like a long-term change. So that is what we have to achieve. So that is where your entire journey starts. So commitment is actually it will feel like your end goal, but commitment is not your end goal. It is actually where your journey will start. So that is where you have to start drawing the roadmap for your engagement plan with your institutions that you're working with. So build a roadmap, what you want to do for the next 1 year and and up to 3 years. So always have quarterly check-ins to ensure whatever changes that you have proposed is being implemented, or do they have any pain points? Do they have any challenges implementing them? Are they having any like firebacks or setbacks in the program? Are the end users who are, I mean, not end users, end level audience who are students and employees, are they taking it well? So always have a quarterly check-in, track your metrics, and do all the impact assessment, and renew your program every now and then. Why renewal is important is because let's say in an institutional setup, this is easier to understand. So the person who is principal now can actually leave the job or move to a different position, and a new person will come into action, and that person might not have a complete idea about like what is happening and why I need to continue this program that the college has already implemented. So the renewal will also like giving a refreshing moment for the program, and also for the end institution who's working on to improvise it or make changes to the program. Yeah. And yes, some of the practical tools and guidelines I have mentioned, but I would say if you are someone who's starting a program, institutional engagement program or institutional outreach program today, so the basic thing that you might need is you need an institutional database with proper contact information. Build a database. This can be done simply with Google advanced searches. So create a list of let's say 100 institutions that you want to work with, and like find right point of contacts that you want to reach from these institutions with proper contact information and everything. Phone numbers, email IDs. If they are active on any other platforms like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. So have them in your database. It helps to always be connected with your audience or the pipeline, people in your pipeline. Create a script for your outreach. So write down what you want to talk about, and create it. It's kind of in a conversation format. Like I'll say hello, and they'll ask, who am I? So I'll say this. Create in a scripted format so that it is easier for you to anticipate what might happen and what questions they might ask, and it's easier to like always get back to like think about what questions ask, and you can keep updating it. So finalize the outreach method. If you want to do it online or offline, cold calls is something. Cold call people, most people might not like cold calls, but I still think cold call is one of the biggest mode of outreach that helped institutional outreach in the beginning of the program. So cold calls are always essential, but do not only rely on cold calls. Offline outreach as much as possible. If you are based in the same city as the institution that you want to work with, set up in-person meetings, meet with them in person. So that builds a certain level of communication, shows dedication, and people seeing someone in person actually builds the value of trust. When it happens, so I would prefer offline communication as much as possible. So write your ask into a proposal, and so most of these institutions that you're talking with, after the first point of contact, they would need documents, materials, and resources. So build your documents that is needed. It should be a proposal. If you have already did some background work, add your background work to it. If you have already have few successes, add your success stories and testimonials to it. So whatever necessary. So these documents should answer these 5 questions. Why, what, how, when, and where this of these programs. So why this program should happen, why it is essential for the institution to implement it, what is this program about, how are we going to implement it, and when will we start this, like what is the duration of the program, and where are these changes going to happen. So things like that. So yes, manager outreach and track progress. So that's why we said like have a database. So it makes sense to manage like who I reached out to, who have not, etc. like that. If you are someone who's starting very new, I think a simple Excel sheet will make more sense. It's easier for you to track. You don't have to have all fancy tools to like Notion and all to start something new. If you're someone beginning, I think the basic set of things that you need to do have is like a database, a LinkedIn profile for you to outreach to, your phone like to make calls, and your email ID to like write emails, and like a simple Canva tool to design your proposals, design your like whatever resources that you might need. Google Workspace, like Google Excel sheet, Gmail platform to send Gmail to send your emails, etc. And if you are someone who needs to be arranged and organized, I think Notion or Trello, a simple free version that is available, will suffice all your requirements. And one final thing I wanted to mention is track your campaign progress internally with the help of timelines and milestones always, because it is easier to lose track of any institution that if you are doing institutional outreach. For example, many of you might have already started doing something locally, from wherever the city that you're working on. So it's easier to track 10 institutions, but once the number, if you, let's say I'm trying to reach out to someone from Delhi, at the same time I'm also trying to reach out to someone who's based in my city, Bengaluru. So I might lose track of whom I have contacted or what was the last conversation. So always have clear timelines and milestones and checkpoints of like what needs to happen, what are your action points, and who have I contacted, etc., something like that. And yes, for fact sheets, ke liye, these are some of the platforms that you can refer to. Funalytics, Our World in Data, WHO, FAO, One Health reports are very helpful. Landsat's reports and GFI any relevant recent database that have come, you can use them. And yes, so this is a small activity that I wanted to create. But before we get on to the activity, so this is a small activity, like people can break into groups. So pick out your target audience, any target institution that you want to work with. So these are the 5 points that you have to do during the like this session. So research about your target audience. Let's say I want to work with Reva University in Bengaluru. So this is there is a university called Reva. There is a university. So if I want to work with Reva University, I will do a background research about like what have they implemented any similar programs before. So what are their do they have any background related to health sustainability or any institutional campaigns? How does the internal workings go on? So I'll do a little background research. I have to decide on what is my mode of communication, and I'll define my ask. And with all the information I gathered, I'll use it to my advantage. Let's say they have the background of uh, uh, organizing health workshops or health related communications. So we will I'll use those informations to my uh, you know to my leverage point, to my advantage. So I'll prepare a convincing proposal that I can use. So I think instead of doing instead of doing it as an activity, I think it's better for everyone to do it on their own. So because if you like after the session is over, and if you actually like religiously take it upon and like put 15 minutes of your time and work on these 5 points, and I think that will be a great start if you want to start something like kind of a institutional outreach on your own. Because who knows, like you try to do an activity for 15 minutes and you end up actually creating your own campaign, and 1 or 2 years later you might actually I'll be the person reaching out to you for institutional outreach. Yeah, something like that. Yes, so if people need to yes, this presentation can be made available, and if you need take screenshots, you can take screenshots. So we're not going to have this as a separate activity for now. We might be little short of time, so I'm going to leave it up to you to do this activity on your own. And I'm gonna move to the next slide, because this is very important for me. If you are people who are on this call, if you're someone who's looking to work full time in an institutional engagement or institutional outreach campaign, so Green Tuesday Initiative is looking to hire people. We always want someone who's proactive and who's interested in creating impact and working for animal welfare. So these are the skills that we're looking for. decent communication skill, need to be like fast acting, proactive, and just make decisions on the go, and have some critical thinking skills. And if you have like little experience in lead generation and marketing, that will be a plus point for you. So if you scan this QR code which is shown on the screen, it will actually take you to a eligibility test form, a Google form, which will be an eligibility test. So based upon your results, so this is a simple test. Like you need to answer a few questions, and you will be like ranked and scored based on your answers. So based upon your scores, like they will get back to you. If you pass a certain number, then we'll start your interview procedure. Or if you would like to get in touch with me directly for some other program, if you already have a existing program, and you want to collaborate with Green Tuesday Initiative to help you with capacity building, or help you reach out to certain institutions. If you're stuck at any point, we're always like there to help. You have my email ID on the screen, sowndarya@greentuesday.org. So feel free to get in touch with me. And yes, with this, we have come to the end of the presentation. Thanks to everyone who have joined the call. I think now we can open the space for Q&A, right? Namrata and Jagruti, yes, over to you guys.
Thank you, Soundarya. It was really an insightful session. I'm sure that the activists, whoever are present in the meeting, I have learned a lot from it. Thank you so much. If there is any question, I think Shishir has raised his hand. Shishir, yes, please go ahead.
Hi.
Okay. Hi, Soundarya. The session was very informative and engaging, first of all. And I believe throughout the process, I believe that one particular part, and that is in the initial engagement with the organization.
Mhm.
I believe I find that to be the most challenging part. That first interaction that we have with them.
Right.
So, and you have mentioned a lot of challenges that are there. So, can you please share a particular incident which has happened to you, and how you overcame that challenge?
You're saying a challenge that we
You
came
guys have
across
faced it.
during the first conversation, initial round of
Interaction, yeah.
conversations.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was in 2023. So we were trying to reach out to her. So if you look at Green Tuesday Initiative ka portfolio, so you will find a lot of private institutions, like all premier institutions, from any range, like small institutions to big level. But we have very little communication with public institutions. So in 2023 May, we reached out to one public institution, and we proposed this idea. So they were like, this was initial level of communication that was happening. At first, I don't know, like people were interested in the idea, but at some level, before this commitment stage came in, so public institutions always have this point that uh, uh, because the decision makers are not the institution's management at the end moment. For public institutions, it is a completely different point of view, because this institution is managed by a state or a central government, and the decision makers actually go beyond who sits inside the campus. So they do not want to take any actions that will actually interfere with the institution's name, or like actually portray them differently, right? So we reached out to this one institution. They were initially excited about the program, but they came to know about like what is going to happen. So they came, the end reasoning that they gave us is, most of the students who are studying in this institution may not have access to animal based food outside of this campus. They come from a poor background, so might not have access to good nutritious food outside this campus. So it is so we will not at any point of time will take this decision and cut down, because like I think they were serving egg they were talking about egg. So egg is something which is perceived like is more nutritious than any other food. Egg has protein. So all the conversations. So yes, everyone will have the same mindset. But what happened there? Well, there was like people said egg is protein, and students in this institution will not have access to have eggs outside this campus. So we will not ever introduce such a program there. So that is what the communication, that there was a message came back to us. But this in case is not related to egg or anything, because in the bigger picture all institutions will have similar mindset, because it is not about a certain food item, it is about a political message that might go out. For example, India is like a country filled with it's a veg friendly, basically it's a veg friendly country, and all the some political reasoning ke wajah se, so people might relate it to certain political party or certain religious and cultural trends. So they do not want to be adhering to certain one thing, because people will think they are opposing the other group of people if I agree to take certain action inside my institution. So this happened with public institutions because it had all the three connection points, political viewpoint and also the religious and cultural viewpoint. They also from the geographic location where all these points actually collided. But I think the same issue will be there when with all the institutions that you're connecting with, irrespective of public or private, irrespective of an education institution or company. The first thing that will come to mind is my organization is a diversified organization. We want it to be that way, right? We don't want to be reaching out to like one group of community of people and asking them to do it. We want to reach out to all level of community groups, like irrespective of all these things, we want to be reaching out to a common ground and give this message that this is not something relevant to any of the political agenda or any other agenda, right? So this is not relevant to any agenda or propaganda that we want to work with. All the institutions I think you are reaching out to will have the same mindset. Will it actually impact or affect the mindset or the thought process of a certain group of people? So make sure your communication is always like free of all these points. Do not mention that for example, Green Tuesday initiative itself, I would say, when we started this program, we named it Green Tuesday because most of the like in certain religious region may Tuesday people do not take non-vegetarian, right? So it worked for us to a certain level, but going forward we learned that it's not the case. What if the decision maker I'm speaking to, is from other community, and it might not be relevant to him. So I think what will work is like always have your message to be like very inclusive of all the group of people, inclusive of both non-vegetarians and vegetarians, inclusive of vegans, inclusive of all dietary patterns. So make sure your program does not appeal to one group of people and everyone. That's it. Yeah. I think a lot of people raised hands. And Namrata, before we go ahead, I think there are two other people, Ramakrishna and Ranajit. So let's have their questions. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Very good sessions and informative session. Thank you. Uh, I am just sharing my experience. That is the vegetable kitchen garden in educational institutions is of very much help for advocacy towards vegan food habit styles. When students actively participate in gardening, such things activity, their familiarity with plants increases their um, food habits, that's plant-based food habits, and the videography and data regarding the benefits of these vegetables are of much help. Now my question is, or query is, how can we introduce hydroponics like modern techniques in urban area, municipality area, in kitchen garden educational institution, where there is a space problem we face? Ma'am, please.
Uh, Okay, to be very frank, I don't think I'm qualified enough to talk about hydroponics. But I think from working with educational institutions, one thing I would like to say is most of the educational institutions are also nowadays working towards SDG goals. So, either it be like having a own kitchen garden inside their campus facility to provide some, at least, if not all, some of the kitchen ingredients. So I think institutions are interested in these points, like, making it like making the campus sustainable and self-sustaining. Building a self-sustaining campus is something that institutions are interested in working with. So I think if you want to create something like that, institutions who have, okay, if you go into any institution's website, if you see they have a separate a tab or a page for their sustainability, then that institution is more prone. They are your target audience. I don't know if I answered the question, but I hope it helps. Yes,
Thank
the
you,
next
ma'am.
person.
So next, I also have a question, but I think Arushi can go ahead first. Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Sowndarya.
Hi.
I scanned the QR code and the position says it's remote, right?
Yes.
Okay. Another question is that I run my own organization as well, which is an animal welfare organization. We are a registered society since 2021. So I have a question. In case I apply, am I eligible since I'm already a founder and a president of an organization? Will there be a clash of interest?
I don't think so until whatever. See, this is a full time. First thing is it is remote, but we also require for the person to be like available to travel and be present in one of the tier one cities. So that is one of the necessity. And if this position, if you are joining this is a full time position. We do not have anything against like having a founder or a CEO or having their own organization joining our program. That works for us, but it depends upon like how you'll be able to
Manage the time.
How will we manage time and like what level of integrations that we can take also. So let's say your organization, if you want to keep it completely like different from Green Tuesday or vegan outreach, that is fine. If you are like, if you want to like collaborate and do it together, then I don't think it will mean employment, but a kind of a mutual a contract based communication. Engagement.
Okay.
Thank you, Soundarya. Thank you, Arushi. Soundarya, I have a question. So if we are dealing with the colleges and institutes based in northern geographical area of our country, say like Haryana, Punjab, Delhi, NCR, UP. So in these states, majorly the focus is not on meat. The focus is more on dairy. So, and dairy is like right from the morning to night, they are having the dairy products. They start their breakfast with a bowl of curd. In the afternoon, also in the lunch, they used to have some dairy products. Night as well. So, how to introduce plant-based option, or you can say Green Tuesday initiative in these kind of institutes where dairy is extensively used.
We have worked with institutions based in like Punjab, Haryana, and Delhi-based organizations. So yes, I agree with your point. Like they mostly it's a dairy intensive like operations that they have. So, but I would say whatever worked for us in South also worked for us in North. The thing is like it is just simple, like because our communication was not always about what food product to change, but about what kind of changes can be made instead. For example, our message or our communication, what we require for the institution is to reduce any animal product level to certain extent in a repeated frequency. So this is what we need them to do. So give them the freedom of choosing what changes they want to make. It's not essential that the institution is only dairy heavy. They might serve some non-vegetarian products also. And in South also, you might not realize, but in South, without having tea and coffee, people will not survive. they always have a like a running like a dry cafeteria inside any kind of like a workplace or an institution. So I think giving them the freedom to choose what impact they want to create, and making it as simple as possible, because we don't want to make changes too rapid and too huge to actually sustain for a long period. Simply what we can choose is, if you think, okay, let's take an institution based in Punjab or Haryana. They might be serving different kind of dairy products. It can be lassi like in a lunch, or like as you said, yogurt they might be serving in breakfast. For like refreshments in the morning and evening, they need tea, coffee, or something like that. So there are different dairy products. Give them the opportunity to choose one thing that they want to reduce. Start from one simple thing. So look how it pans out. So they also have to make certain changes. It is not only cutting down dairy. So it is about like what alternative you give them that is actually equivalent to the things that you're replacing. So make sure you start with one product, and if you show them, like let's say you start this in March, and in the next 3 months you show them this transition is highly possible and is also efficient. It is actually like saving, like cost efficient, and also it is actually good for them and people are liking it. It is more there are more chances people will listen to you more and go for the next thing. Okay, I let's say morning evening tea coffee mein, morning mein instead of tea coffee we started serving something else. So they'll come back to you and say, okay, we did this on morning, let's do this one day in a week. So on this entire day, both morning and evening mein, I'll make the changes, so it is easier for me, like that. So always start with something simple and easier to make.
Thank you. It's a very good idea. So we have two more hands. Ranajit, your question, please.
Hi, madam. My question is about the organizational culture. Means, my question is, how do you recommend approaching institutions that view the food choice as a strictly private matter?
Yes, that is one of the biggest challenges that we face always. It will always be there, because even at an institutional level, what happens is like it is a private choice. At the end of the moment, some questions arise like, okay, we introduce this program, and people do not like the food that is being served, and people go outside and eat, like, because what happens? So this is some of the question that comes around. So there is always like two hands in this case. One is like the decision maker is always the one who's from the top, the person who are speaking with, but he does not get to decide what kind of food is being served. He plainly can make recommendations, but the authority to make recommendations is always be there. So I think in this case, I think it is mostly about communication, because if I talk about company's point of view, what they want is like, if you look at any workplace, all the things will be relevant to productivity of the organization. So if they have a like a very chill pad inside their organization, it means that they want their employees to like relax and rejuvenate whenever they can, so that they can get back to work and to be more productive. And if they are giving more benefits for employees, it is also relevant to like productivity and work. Similarly, it applies to institutions also. So I think the messaging or communication to the person that you're contacting needs to be relevant to them, like how they can recommend certain things. And at the end, you also have to appeal to the end audience. You have to do a lot of awareness sessions. So why we are making this change, why it is essential for you to make changes to your eating pattern or dietary habits. So it needs to happen in two levels, I would say.
Okay, madam. Thank you.
Yes, Namrata.
Yeah, thank you, Soundarya. It was of course brilliant. So thank you so much for taking time out today. मुझे बस ये एक सवाल था कि आप टेंडर मतलब कॉलेजेस में या कॉर्पोरेट्स में टेंडर मतलब टेंडर्स होते हैं by vendors, right? Yeah. So, they are very adamant that, we can't purchase, even though they are giving us like horrible paneer, which they are saying we are purchasing for 40 rupees per kg, which is, of course, that's fake paneer. But they will actually not go back and say, okay, let us give them tofu, which really is not that much more expensive.
Mhm.
If you buy in bulk, we can set up the vendors for that. But there seems to be a huge resistance around that issue. That's one question I had. How do you deal with something like that? And secondly, I know you said Green Tuesday worked very well because initially you were looking at days when people usually eat vegetarian food. So how do you go about it now? Are you open to doing different days as well? Like if somebody says, let us do on Monday, let us do on Thursday. So yeah.
Yes, I'll answer the second question first. So initially it worked really well for us, like Green Tuesday, because if you guys know, like there is Meatless Mondays. It's a huge campaign. It's a huge successful campaign. Still, it is up and running, I guess. So that is, we took the inspiration from there, and that's where Green Tuesday initiative came. And there was also this point of like more people are already going vegetarian on Tuesdays, but it actually backfired in two levels. One is it might not be relevant to the person I'm speaking to, because what if he is from a different community and he takes offense? Okay, they consider only one group of people, uh, and he takes offense of it. That is one thing. And second is, what if the organization do not serve non-vegetarian at all on the same on that day? So it makes no sense for us to ask them to implement it. So now, the like over the period, I think like our ask has become a little fluid, that can adjust to the organization, customize itself to the organization's need and preference. So the organization gets to decide all the things, what kind of changes they want to make, like what kind of food item they want to work on, and at what day they want to work on, and to how many level of employees they can or employees or students they can influence. Usually in bigger institutions, not all, they will have like 4 or 5 canteen mess or like hostel messes and all. So you don't have to influence an entire institution at the starting point, like, right? You can start from something simple. Okay, give us one mess. In one mess may we'll start serving this food. If the responses are good, we can implement an all mess also. So something similar, like keeping it, giving the authority for them to decide, like make these changes. I think institutions feel more like motivated to, like they have more action on their hands. They have more responsibilities to take care of. That actually made a huge sense. And coming back to the first question, sorry, could you repeat it?
Yes, the vendor dilemma, like like when
Right.
they are okay, इसी पैसे में तो मिल रहा है, मतलब it's so cheap. We will not serve tofu.
So you definitely need to have a separate conversation without involving anyone from the other teams. So let's say your point of contact will be there. He should not be or like he should not be like 100% involved in the conversation you will be having with your vendor. Or you need to have a separate conversation with the vendor without all the the pitch points, like what you expect out of this implementation. So because we have our own agenda, right? Like we want to reduce animal suffering, we want to reduce the number of animal lives used for food. So that is what we want. Definitely, we are not going to go to any institution or a decision maker and say you have to save these animals, because your pitch point will be different. Your pitch point will be, let's reduce this amount of animal based food is served because of XYZ. You will give your reasoning, right? Similarly, that reason will not work for um, the cafeteria manager or the tender person who's working, because he has no idea. He just serves food. He's a third party business uh, who does not have any hand in it. So what works for him is price point. So and also he is more passionate about what he does. We should not underestimate how involved he is in this entire thing, because at the same time he does not have anything to gain from it. At the same time, he also have he can create, for example, what are the benefits for him? If I look at it, he can create, if he is changing his menu or if he's introducing something new in his menu, he can have an entire new business. So and people still perceive vegan as a higher price point food, right? So if he starts including vegan food and charge like 10 rupees extra. Of course, like institution who's is gonna buy because they have the budget for it. They are not going to, because it is vegan, and if we promote it in certain way, institutions can it can be appealed to institutions. So price may he can actually earn little more about it, and he is also very passionate about the work he do. He want to always introduce what is on trend. If you look at any catering services, they will be catching up to trend. So trend is something that you can motivate him with. Nowadays wedding may they are serving vegetarian fish with banana. So that actually worked for us. This is not something this is not something coming out of mind. That has actually worked for one of our partners, which we recently worked with, because there was a bit of communication gap. It will always be there because institutions will decide, okay, today we'll serve only plant-based, or we'll serve only vegetarian, and they give the announcement to the catering partner. But the catering partner might not understand what plant-based food is. So this happened with one of institution. We asked them to catering partner to serve plant-based food. So Green Tuesday initiative से ऐसे कोई आ रहा है, so ऐसे बिना like plant से जो खाना बना है, मतलब वही serve करना है. This was the communication given to him. So he served palak chicken. So for them to understand what happens, like what is it, so we need to have a separate conversation, what needs to be avoided, give him a to-do, like do's and don'ts kind of thing. So this, on this day, this needs to be served and this does not, we should not serve this. And इससे आपको क्या benefit हो सकता है ये include करने से. So having a separate conversation is, I think, what will help.
In general, do you avoid speaking directly with vendors until the institution has, of course, said that, now we are implementing it, and then you can get in touch with vendors and set the course for
this
them?
This is in the case like you have actually acquired all the permissions needed, you have decided to implement, and so what happens is then you need to have the conversation, because implementation and like the commitment and implementation के बीच में जो period है, so उसी में वो conversation we have to bring in. Yeah, I think someone else raised hand.
Yes, Subhrajit. Yes, Subhrajit, over to you.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
There is an echo at your side.
Hello. Okay.
Yes.
So basically, I am representing Care of Khejuri. We advocate for animal welfare and plant-based living as essential pillars for preserving the fragile coastal ecosystem of Purba Medinipur. Our institution is formed in 2019. So this was a very good session. I'm listening. I have a question. Actually, we are actively organizing these sessions, events in institutional outreach in the coastal district. Purba Medinipur is purely a coastal district. I find that local culture and the seafood-based economy are deeply interlinked to us. So, in such a specific geographical region, what is the best strategy to promote plant-based habits without appearing the conflict with the traditional livelihood of our local community? What should our approach look like when we are going to give such seminars?
I think being inclusive or is what will help. I would think being inclusive in the sense of, I'm saying, so let's say if I want to reach out to a certain group of people, if I'm going to any, I don't know if you're talking in the sense of any educational institution or the
Yes. Yeah, both, ma'am.
Okay. So I think I didn't understand your question. Can you clarify a little bit?
No, I am asking you whenever, especially whenever we are communicating the local, and we are going to organizing the events in institutions also. Purva Midnapur is highly a coastal district. Okay, so and in our district, our local culture, the seafood based economy is very strong, and we are deeply interlinked. So I'm asking you the question that in such specific case or the geographical region, whenever we are promote plant-based habits actually without appearing to conflict with the traditional livelihood of a local community, then what should our approach look like? How we approach our even key you have to choose plant-based uh, this thing.
Okay. I think being positive in two ways can help. One is though, at an institutional's point of view, we can say what are the positive benefits of adding more plant-based food, because let's say for an institution who or any kind of like eating pattern which includes non-vegetarian or animal-based food products on a like it is part of every meal. So it is not only plant-based food. Whatever eat, like let's say it's you can relate it to junk food, So it is easier for them to understand. It's not like it's not sustainable or it's not healthy to have junk food every day. So similarly, every food that we eat, I'm not saying plant-based, animal-based also, every food eat will have certain impact on our on our long-term health and etc. So I think appeal to some points like having certain foods at a certain frequency is only good for health, and maybe we can include points about like on a long-term way, what are negative benefits that we could have, and what are the mitigation points that we need to have. So this is something that we can talk to institutions about, and not to talk about the not to appeal to the negative points of the affecting livelihood of people who are working in that, but we can just touch point it like for example, we cannot avoid certain negative impacts that comes with the livelihood choices, so let's say okay, there are like certain people, there are like x number of negative impact that comes with fishing, and people also, it's not only animal lives that is actually on the stake. There are like some health impacts that people who work in fishing, so longer exposure to sea air, longer exposure actually affects their health and their livelihood, their lives, etc. So maybe we can also mention few points, but not to question their choice of work, but just to mention what are the negative impacts also that comes with it. So everything works good looks in a moderation. That is what actually the end user also is interested in. Not anything extreme, not anything too little to be noticed. But I think being like putting all these points in moderation is something that might help you. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Soundarya.
Yes.
So yeah, I'll go next.
Yeah.
So Soundarya, I have another question, that how to convince institutes, how like can we convince the institute based in tier 2 and tier 3 cities? For tier 1 cities, it is very easy that we can get the vegan products alternatives in the market. Vendors are having the availability, but for tier 2 and tier 3 cities, the availability of the products is very low. So even if any institutes gets ready that okay, we will adopt some we'll add some alternatives on this particular day for our like menu, say paneer will be replaced by tofu, but the availability of tofu will not be in the tier 2 city, and the transportation will also add some cost. So what about that, like how to deal with this situation?
I would say like okay, this is an alternative that we are proposing for the institution, but in some level we also have to question the suggestions that we give the institutions. Is it essential for the institution, or do they require these alternatives? For example, tier 1 cities, may people have people are exposed to the idea of having mock meat in their regular menu, swatch up and like jackfruit biryani or something that they have access to, and they are open to trying also. But in tier 2 cities mein, tier 2 tier 3 cities mein, they it's less probable they have the exposure to it, and at the same time it's less probable that they want to experience it. They want to have it in a menu. We don't always have to give alternatives, like direct alternatives or not the answer, I would say. We do not have to give direct alternatives. For example, if it is not working with a vendor, or like if it is difficult for them to access a certain product, then we don't have to do it. Why do we have to have tofu? Because see, look at a Indian food. Like if we look at traditional and authentic Indian food, it does not have tofu. It doesn't need to have tofu. Why? Because like tofu is not something which originated in India. So why do we have to have always like equivalent of, okay, if it is paneer, I have to give tofu. If it is meat, I mean like any kind of chicken or not mutton, we have to give like a mock meat. So it doesn't need to be an A is equal to B wala formula, but we just need to ask what the institution want, because ultimately it is not the product that is going to sustain the implementation. It is what the reasoning why they are implementing the program. If they are like have a good reason enough to implement the program, then I don't think the food that we are serving will make a bigger difference.
If the college is having paneer for only 2 days in a week,
Mhm.
it's a very basic thing. Like
Yeah.
one day they are having paneer bhuji, and some other day in the same week they're having shahi paneer, or something like that. So these are the only major two the animal products at night they are serving, and in the daytime they are usually having curd. This is a very curd can be easily for one day, we can say, if we are pitching them for a Green Tuesday initiative, they can easily say that okay, on Tuesdays we will not be having curd in the lunch. But okay, on the same day they can even have kheer. At the night we will be having lentils, or say some other thing. But what about the weekly thing? In the week they are having that two servings. So what about that? The students will not agree on this thing, that okay, we were having only two paneer servings and that is being reduced. So how to tackle that? So this was a real issue I have faced with one college. That's why, like, I am asking.
I understand. This I would say. I have two things about the like how we can tackle it. For example, first thing is like I will so this is I'm saying, like if I'm reaching out to a certain institution who is serving only they do not serve any meat, they're serving only paneer and also some dairy products, and their frequency of serving these animal based dairy products is very minimal. It's always is already enough. I'm serving only one time in a week, and how can I still reduce it, because people, this is the only thing I'm having. So this is something that always comes up with institutions. So what I tell myself is, there are institutions, there are companies who are having both veg and non-veg menus, like items on their menu every day. Like there are companies who's working like 5 days in a week with a full platter menu of non-vegetarian or animal-based food items. And why I'm not like reaching out to them to reduce and educate them more than reaching out to someone who's already at their bare minimum or like minimalistic level of thing. Because ultimately this is about like how many animal lives I can save, and ultimately how many impact I create. So if it is about like if it is about one institute in this point of view, what I would say is, it is not about one certain institution, or like it is not about one small goal, right? Like of course, like as a Green Tuesday initiative, I mean as a program or a company, we need to have certain goals, and like it is essential for my like a yearly goal or annual goal or something. It is essential for me to convert that or like implement it in the institution. But long term may, if we see it as helping anyone, the same amount of energy and time I can put it in a different institution who is actually where I can create more impact. So I think in this stage you should think about like where the maximum impact can be achieved rather than being set on one institution who is already to the is already in the verge of like doing a maximum or a minimal thing which they are already doing. Because what happens, there are two ways it ends. One is like, okay, after like rigorous communications, people they agree to, okay, we will let go of paneer. That is one thing they might say. Or we might lose all the things that we have conversed, people will say, no, this is not a chance, like I'm not trying to I cannot take chances. So at the end we have to see like what benefits a program in a long term.
Thank you, Soundarya. So it's the time we need to wrap up.
Yeah.
We have two more hands, but if you can put your questions. You can write the email to me at institution at the rate. I have put my email ID in the chat box. Institution at the rate one just dot world. मैं दोबारा डाल देती हूँ so that you all can get in touch with me. Okay, just wait.
Just one last question, Sowndarya. What is the last date to apply for the position?
So this is a rolling, opening that we have. So until we find our like ideal candidate, I think we'll be anyway happy to hear from him.
All right.
Anyway,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Sure.
Thank you, everyone, for attending this session, for
Yes.
being here. And I have written my email ID again in the chat box. You all can save it. That's my number. That's a WhatsApp number. You all can save that too. So if you have any other questions, if you missed any, query, you can drop me a text over WhatsApp as well. So yes, thank you. Thank you, Soundarya, for the wonderful presentation and answering all the questions very well. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.
Thank you, Soundarya.
Thank you, Namrata.
Bye.
Thank you, Jagrut. And thank you everyone from On
Thank
Just
you all.
Call. Yes. Thank you everyone who have joined the session.